Hello, I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. Here is today's severe thunderstorm outlook. Still have some pretty active areas, mostly caught up in a northwest flow of jet stream energy that goes from the northern plains down through the eastern U.S. And you can see by looking at this is a mean of the jet stream flow, 500 millibar anomaly. It just means this is on average how this is going to flow. So we have a big area of high pressure here that's going to lead to extensive heat in this area. That'll snuff out any thunderstorms. But generally, there's this slide that's very typical in the summer that runs from southern Canada down into the into the eastern U.S., southeastern U.S. as well, and that's going to kind of dictate things. And if you look at the next week of supercell composite, you can see clearly that that is the trend here, where the highest percentage of supercell possibilities. And of course, a supercell is one that it doesn't collapse on itself, has more sustaining power, stronger updrafts, and can support more severe weather. That's why we look at this to get an idea. Now, this is a composite for the next 7 days, not a specific forecast, but it does show clearly that same trend I showed you on the last slide. So let's get to the specifics for Friday here today. We have a little bit of a risk still in coastal areas of South Carolina, North Carolina, but mostly it's up here in the plains where we have that level 2 slight risk. Zoom in on that here. So from International Falls southwestward to Bismarck and every point in between, Grand Forks, Fargo, and that slight risk of weather. What is the breakdown? Severe weather. What is the breakdown? So the tornado risk is at 2%, not in the entire area, but a little bit skewed to the north in that slight risk area. 15% wind risk in about that same area again, and a 15% hail risk. But they did, the SPC actually put an intensity parameter on this one, which means that this is kind of like they have enough information to actually make that forecast where they can speak somewhat intelligently about the size of the hailstones. And if that hatched area there is a strong possibility, about an 83% chance it'll be below 2 inch in diameter. 1 inch, of course, is the severe weather actual parameter, so the minimum that you would get for a severe thunderstorm verification would be 1 inch hail. If we look at CSU's product for today, a little bit of that tornado risk in a much more constricted area. Same with the hail and with the wind, 15% of both of those, but a smaller area than SPC is outlining. Then we roll to Saturday. This is just a hodgepodge of marginal risk areas: Montana, South Dakota, parts of Wisconsin, way down there in southeast Arizona. So not a whole lot to get excited about for Saturday. A little bit of a break, although they did paint a tornado risk on Colorado states for southern Wisconsin. And that same bullseye applies to hail and just about to the same area for wind, only expanded just a little bit. Moving ahead to Sunday, again, the roller coaster down into the eastern U.S. continues. So we have this severe thunderstorm risk at level 2, covering just about all of Minnesota, a good chunk of Wisconsin and northern Iowa as well. The tornado risk on this for CSU is mostly in Wisconsin, maybe a little bit there in south portions of Ohio. But hail, wind, hail not so much, a little bit in Wisconsin, wind a much more greater 15% tag on that from Wisconsin to Iowa, southeastward into the Ohio River Valley. On Monday, it continues. It slides a little bit more to the east, so Michigan, lower Michigan, the Chicago area, northern Indiana, including Indianapolis, northern Ohio, including Columbia and Cleveland and Toledo. Detroit's in this, Pittsburgh, all that. This looks a little truncated to me. I was trying to figure out if that is actually an artifact. They usually wouldn't draw an outlook with a solid line like that, but close enough. Even if you were to fill it in, it would be something like that. Anyway, so that's Monday. And Tuesday, we continue the slide southeastward. So from Philadelphia through Baltimore, nation's capital, Richmond, all the way down to Winston-Salem, Charlotte, Fayetteville, Raleigh, all those areas in that severe weather risk for Tuesday. So I already showed you the NIU composite for the first week. It just seemed to make sense at the beginning of the presentation. So here's week 2. This goes from July 31st through August 6th. Still a lot of supercell composite possibilities there. Very indicative of the idea that we're going to continue to get flow up and around a ridge on average in the western U.S. Long-range data supports the position of that, so that suggests that this slide of severe thunderstorms will continue. And, not surprisingly, into week 3, about the same. From the Dakotas over into Great Lakes states, pretty high supercell composites, 30% possibility for that entire week.